Excel reports and analysis typically include date calculations, but many Excel users have large gaps in their knowledge about this topic. I'm Nabil Murad. Do you find date functions confusing? Not anymore, because this is your complete guide to date math. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover common date functions and calculations. I also give you a nice dynamic calendar for any year that you can insert and use in any of your workbooks and even annotate it. Just type any date in cell E1 and the full year calendar is populated. With this tutorial, I'm also offering you a free gift, the Quick Reference Guide, which summarizes all the date functions in a memorable way. Don't forget to claim your free gift by following the steps in the description below the video. You can download the exercise file and follow along by clicking on the link here below. We have a lot to learn, but we need first to understand the basic concept about Excel dates. So let's get started. What is a date in Excel? A date is stored in Excel as a number. Day 1 in Excel is the 1st of January 1900. Every day then increments by 1. So today's date is just an incremental number from the 1st of January 1900. Whether you format the dates as short dates or long dates, or even apply a custom format, Excel will always perceive them as numbers. To reveal the numbers stored behind the scene, you can apply the general format or use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-tilde. Tilde is to the left side of number 1 on an American keyboard. And because a date is stored in Excel as a number, we have a broad category of functions that enable us to perform date math to calculate any date in the past or in the future. On a Mac, day 1 is the 1st of January 1904. In VBA, we can go back to the 1st of January 1600. How to enter a date in Excel? Well, I need first to decide whether it's a static or a dynamic date. To enter a static date, I could do that in so many ways. I could type the date, let's say this is the 17th of February 2019, and then when I hit enter, that would be a static date. I could also use the shortcut Ctrl-semicolon, and that will enter the date for me automatically. If you wish to enter a dynamic date, which means that changes if you open the same file tomorrow, then in this case we'll be using a function. It's the today function. It's an argumentless function. So if I type equal today, and then I close the bracket when I hit enter, it's today's date. Apparently it looks the same whether in cell E4 or in cell C4, but if we open the same file tomorrow, the one in E4 will change and will reflect tomorrow's date. I could also enter the date by using the now function, and the now function not only returns the date, but it returns the date and time. So if I type equal now, it's another argumentless function, so when I hit enter, look at that, it's returning the date. And you might wonder, why it didn't return the time as well? That's because of the formatting applied. It's a custom format, and I'll be talking about custom formatting later on. Right now it says it's a date format, but if I go to the next cell and use the same exact function equal now, here you go, it's returning the date and time, so it's all about formatting. I can also enter the date and time in a static format by using shortcuts. So if I go to cell C6 and type Ctrl-semicolon, then I type a space, then Ctrl-Shift-semicolon, when I hit enter, I would have entered the date and time, and it looks exactly the same like the one returned with the now function. I could also record a macro that automatically stamps my worksheet with a date. We are not covering that in this tutorial. We have so many options when copying dates in Excel. I could copy the date like the one you see in cell A5. And when I hover over the lower right corner, the small square, we call it the autofill handle, my mouse pointer changes to a small plus sign. If I click and drag, I'll be copying the date, but it will be incrementing by days. Should you wish to copy the date and increment by month, let's say I have the same exact date in cell B5, so if I hover over the autofill handle and click and drag, I would like this time to increment the month. So I hover over this little autofill options tag, and when I click on it, I find a wealth of options. I want to increment by month, so I'll select fill month, and automatically Excel fills the month. I could also increment by years, so if I hover over the same autofill handle and then click and drag, and then from the autofill options tag, I select fill years, now I'm incrementing by years 2019, 2020, and so on. One of the interesting options is that you can skip the weekends. You can increment by workdays only. So if I hover over the same autofill options tag and click and drag, now if I select the option fill weekdays, in this case it will be skipping the weekends, and look at this option. The 22nd of February 2019 is followed by the 25th because we have a weekend in between. One final option when copying dates, if you don't want to increment at all, then in this case, while dragging, you have to press and keep holding down the Control key, and in this case, it will be replicating the same exact date. Formatting dates versus custom formatting dates. Whenever you find in Excel this set of number signs or this set of fences, you understand automatically two things. You understand, number one, that this cell contains either number or dates. Dates are also considered numbers. And the second thing we understand is that the column is not wide enough, so what we need to do is to hover over the border of the column containing this set of number signs, and then when the mouse pointer changes to a vertical line and two opposing arrows, we simply double-click to adjust it to the best fit, and it revealed the dates underneath. If you wish to format the dates, you could do that in so many ways. I could select the dates and then go up at the top on the Home tab in the drop list in the number group, and we have two options for formatting dates. I do have a short date option. If I select this option, I would have applied a short date format. I can also apply a long date format. From the same drop list, I could select long dates. If you need more options, then you need to go to the central location for applying formatting, which is called the Format Cell dialog box. And you can access the Format Cell dialog box in so many ways, either by clicking on the drop list in the number group and select the last option in the drop list. That's one way. You can click on the down arrow of the Format command and select Format Cell. You can also right-click and select Format Cell from the right-click menu. You can also click on any one of the small squares in the lower right corner of any one of the groups on the Home tab. This is called the dialog box launcher. If you click on any one of them, it will open the Format Cell dialog box. But you know what? The easiest way to access the Format Cell dialog box is to use the shortcut Ctrl+1. When I hit Ctrl+1, it opens the Format Cell dialog box. It has 6 tabs at the top, and because I'm talking about formatting dates and dates are numbers, so I click on the Number tab. Here I have multiple categories on the left side, and on the right side I have different options for formatting my date. You can scroll through these options until you find the option you like. So let's say I decide that I want to select this one, and then when I hit OK, the formatting I selected is automatically applied. If you look in the Format Cell dialog box one more time, I hit Ctrl+1, and if you don't find what you want, so in this case you can build your own date format by clicking on Custom, and then in the Type box you will be typing the code for formatting your date. But before I show you how to do this, I need to close the Format Cell dialog box and talk about the codes for formatting a date. Let's say I have a date like the 23rd of February 2019, and the date consists of 3 parts. A day, and day starts with D, a month, which starts with letter M, and a year, which starts with letter Y. So if I type in the code 2 Ds, it will be returning the day in digits. if I type 3 Ds, it will be returning the abbreviated name of the day. If I type 4 Ds, it will be returning the full name of the day. Similarly, if I type 2 Ms, it will be returning the month in digits, 3 Ms will be returning the abbreviated name of the month, and 4 Ms will be returning the full name of the month. For the year, I have only 2 options. 2 Ys will be returning only 2 digits for the year, and 4 Ys will be returning 4 digits for the year. Let's use these options for creating a custom date. I select my range, and then hit the Ctrl+1 to open the Format Cell dialog box. And it's a custom format, so I go to the Custom dialog box. Under Type, let's say I want to type 2 Ds. And automatically here under Sample, I can see that it says 15, which is the day in digits. If I type 1 more D, it's returning the abbreviated name of the day. And if I type 4 Ds, it will be returning the full name of the day. So let's keep it the abbreviated name of the day. And then I'm going to type a space. And I want the day in digits, so I'll be typing 2 more Ds. And then I want the month abbreviated, so I type 1, 2 Ms. Look at this, it's returning the month in digits. 1 more M, it's returning February. And then I hit comma. I want the year as 4 digits, so I type a space and then I type 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep an eye on the sample, and it tells you how the date will look like when you hit OK. When I hit OK, the formatting I created has been applied. So creating a custom format is really straightforward and very simple, so long as you know these abbreviations. The final method for formatting a date is by using the shortcut, and I find it the easiest way to apply a date format on the fly. The shortcut is Ctrl+Shift+3, and the date format is applied automatically. Should you wish to reveal the numbers stored behind the scene, then you want to strip off the formatting completely, you can go either to the drop list of the number group and select General. Alternatively, you can use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+tilde. Tilde is to the left side of number 1 on an American keyboard. Let's go and apply the date format one more time. Ctrl+Shift+3. And because a date is stored in Excel as a number, you can calculate the difference between 2 dates. Let's see what it means. Let's look at the calendar that I have here, and I want to calculate the difference between the 25th of January 2019 in red and the 2nd of January 2019 in blue. How many days do I have between these 2 dates? I simply subtract them. So in cell B6 I type an equal sign and I say I want the later date, which is a bigger number, minus the earlier date, which is a smaller number. When I hit enter, it returns 23, which means from the 2nd of January 2019 to the 25th of January 2019, we have 23 days. But you know what? This is a little bit tricky, and I want to go deeper into detail to explain to you why is it tricky. And I'm going to use a different example in February that I can count manually. How many days do I have from the 10th of February to the 16th of February 2019? If I count them manually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's an entire week. And let's do them in Excel. So I'm going to subtract the 2 days by typing an equal sign. I select the later date, 16th of February 2019. I type a minus sign and click on the 10th of February 2019. When I hit enter, it's returning 6. So what do I understand from this? Well, I understand that when we subtract dates, not both the start and end dates are included. Only one of them is included. So if you wish to include both of them, then you need to add 1 to get 7 as a result. Although we use the simple technique of subtracting dates, we do have functions to perform the same exact calculations. What I did by subtraction, I'm going to do it by using functions. So I'm going to use the same set of dates and subtract them and then use functions. Well, my earlier date is the 25th of June 2018 and my later date is the 10th of February 2019. Let's subtract them. So I type an equal sign. I click on the later date, which is the bigger number, minus the earlier date, which is the smaller number. When I hit enter, it's returning 230. The days function in Excel is performing the same exact thing. So if I type equal days and then I hit the tab key, it asks me about the end date. I'll be selecting the later date. and then I hit comma, it asks me about the start date, which is the earlier date, and when I close the bracket, it's returning the same exact result. We also have a function called Days360, which returns the number of days between two dates based on a 360 days year, which means 12 months of 30 days each. So let's use the Days360 function equals days, and then I hit tab. This is the Days360 function, and it asks me for a start date, which is the earlier date, and then I hit comma, it asks me for an end date, which is the later date, and then when I close the bracket, this function is returning 225 because it's based on a 360 days year. We also have a function called the year fraction, and the year fraction returns the year fraction representing the number of whole days between the start date and an end date. So if I have two dates, a start date and an end date, and I would like to find out how much this difference represents compared to a full year, so I use the year fraction. So if I type equal year fraction, and then I hit the tab key, it asks me for a start date. The start date is the earlier date, and then I hit comma, it asks me for an end date, and when I close the bracket and hit enter, so it says that this difference of 230 days represents 0.625 of a full year. I can split a date into its components by using either the day, the month, or the year functions. So let's say I have a date, the 10th of February 2019, and I would like to split it. Here I have to ask, do I want the result as a number or as a text? We know that numbers are right aligned in a cell and text is left aligned in a cell. So I'll be using the day function by saying equal day, and then I hit the tab key, day of this cell, cell C3, and when I close the bracket and hit enter, it's returning the day portion of this date. The month function will do the same exact thing. So if I type equal month, and then I hit tab, I want the month of C3. When I close the bracket, it's returning 2. And then finally, the year function is doing the same exact thing. It's extracting the year portion of a serial number. So when I close the bracket, it's returning the year 2019. What about the 13th of July 2011? If I copy the three functions just by dragging to the right to pick up a different date, then the day function will be returning 13, the month will be returning 7, and the year function will be returning 2011. I can extract the date component as text by using the text function. So if I want to extract the day, I type equal text, and then I hit tab. I want the text of cell C3, and because I want a day, so in double quotation, I can type 1, 2, 3 Ds for the day abbreviated. If I want the full day, I type 4 Ds, close the double quotation and close the bracket. When you hit enter, it's returning Sunday. Note that it's returning the day as text and it is left aligned. Okay, let's do it one more time for the month. Equal text, and then I hit tab, text of cell C3, and then I hit comma. I want to return the month as text, so in double quotes I'll type MMM and then double quote and close the bracket. When I hit enter, it's extracting the month of February. For the year, I'll be typing equal text, and then I hit tab. I want to extract the text from this value in cell C3, and then for the year I'll be typing double quote 1, 2, 3, 4 Ys, close the double quote, close the bracket, and then when I hit enter or tab, I'm getting the result 2019. Look at the difference. A number is right aligned, the number extracted with the year function, while a text is left aligned. If I copy the three functions to the right, then I'm getting the same exact thing for the 13th of July 2011. It was a Wednesday in the month of July, and the year was 2011, and it is left aligned because the text function returned the result as a string of text. Should you wish to convert the text back to a number, then in this case we use the date value function. The date value function converts a date in the form of text to a number that represents the date in Microsoft Excel date time code. So I do have some dates left aligned, and they were typed as text or imported from another application. I would like to convert them as numbers so that Excel can perceive them as number, and I can use date math or date calculations with these dates. So I'll be using the date value function. I select the entire range and I type equal date value, and then when I hit tab, it requires the date as text. That's the only argument. So if I select the cell C14 to my left, and then when I hit Control Enter to populate this function, the date value is returning the date as a number. Should you wish to format them, we have so many ways of formatting. I'm going to use the easiest way, the shortcut Control-Shift-3, and now I can see the dates right aligned, starting from dates that were provided as text. I can build a date in Excel by using the date function. It returns the number that represents the date in Microsoft Excel date time code. We can build up a date in the future or in the past by adding to or subtracting from any argument of the date function. So let's first understand the basic concept. I have a day, which is 10, I have a month, 2, and I have a year, 2019. Note that these numbers are right aligned, which means they are numbers, and the date function is always expecting number input values. I'm in cell D4, I'll be typing equal date, and then I hit the tab key. It asks me for a year, and here is the year 2019 coming from cell B6. I hit comma, it asks me for a month, and the month is coming from cell B5, and then I hit comma, it asks me for a day, and the day is coming from B4. When I close the bracket and hit enter, look at that, it's returning the 10th of February 2019. Let me test by changing one of the values into text. So I'll be typing, let's say, FEB instead of month number 2. So the date function returns a value error because it always expects a number as an input value. Let's undo, and then I want to perform calculations by using the date function. And because the date function has 3 arguments, it has years, month, and day, then if I add or subtract to the year, it will be returning a year in the future or in the past. The same for the months and the same for the days. So let me create a date in the future. I'll be typing equal date, and then I hit tab. I want a date by adding 3 years to the year in whatever I have in cell A10. So I want to extract the year of A10 by using the year function, and then I hit tab, click on cell A10. I just want the year of A10. But I would like to add 3 years to whatever comes from A10, so I type a plus sign and click on the cell above, B9. Then I hit comma to move to the next argument, the month. I just want the month from A10, so I type month, and then I hit tab, the month of the same cell A10, and I want the day of the same cell A10, so I click on close the bracket for the day function, and then close the bracket for the date function. When I hit enter, it's returning the 10th of February 2022, which means 3 years after the date in cell A10. You might be wondering, how am I adding 3 years, which looks like text? But this is custom format. If I select this cell and look at the formula bar, you can see only 3. And here, if I select this cell, it shows only 5. If I select this one, it shows only the number. This is custom format that adds a certain text, but it's not actually living inside the same cell. Let me calculate the date function by adding 5 months in the future. I'm selecting cell D10, and I type equal date, and then I hit tab. I want to extract the year of A10, so I click on A10, close the year. I don't want to add or subtract from the year. I want to extract the months, so I type month, and then I hit tab. I want the month of A10, and then I close the bracket. But for the months portion, I would like to add what I have in the cell above, so I type a plus sign and click on the cell above, which has 5, and then I hit comma. Finally, I want the day, so I hit day, and I want the day of cell A10. Close the bracket for the day function, close the bracket for the date function, and here you go. It's calculating 5 months after the date in cell A10. Let's do it one last time, and I'll be adding 37 days in the future. So if I type equal date, and the date function is building the date for me, it requires 3 arguments, a year, and I'm getting the year from cell A10, and then I close the bracket for the year function. I'm getting the month as well from cell A10, and then I'm closing the bracket for the month function. I'm getting the day as well from cell A10, but for the day portion, well, I need to add whatever I have in the cell above, 37, and then I close the bracket for my date function, and now when I hit enter, it's returning a date, 37 days after whatever I have in cell A10. What if I want a date in the past? So let's say if I change this argument by typing a minus sign before it to make it a day in the past, when I hit enter, it's returning 2016. If I want 5 months in the past, so if I type for cell D9, a minus sign in the formula bar, look at the date function, returning a date 5 months in the past. And finally, what if I want 37 days in the past? So if I type a minus sign before the 37, when I hit enter, it's returning a date in the past. The Excel EO month function returns the last day of the month and month in the past or in the future. We use the EO month, which means the end of month, to calculate maturity dates or due dates that fall on the last day of the month. So let's see how we use the EO month. It's a very straightforward function. I have a date, the 15th of January 2019, and I would like to return the end of month 3 months later. So if I count 1 month February, 2 months March, 3 months, that's April, but I don't want the same exact date in April. I want the end of April, which is the 30th of April. So I'll be using the end of month equal EO month. And then I hit tab. Where is your start date? My start date is the 15th of January coming from cell B2. I hit comma. What's the number of months? It comes from cell A4. And then when I close the bracket, it's returning the last day of April 2019. Well, how do I use the EO month to calculate the end of this month? So if I type equal EO month and then I hit tab, what's your start date? It's coming from cell B2, and then I hit comma. I want the end of this month. So if I type 0, that means this month. I don't want to move any months forward or backward. And then when I hit enter, it's returning the last day in January. What if I want the last day of the previous month? I can also use the EO month equal EO month, and then when I hit tab, my start date is coming from cell B2, and then when I hit comma, how to denote that I want the previous month? That means I want to move 1 month backward in the past. I type -1, close the bracket and hit enter, and it returns the last date of the previous month. The Excel eDate function returns a date on the same day of the month and month in the past or in the future. We use the eDate to calculate expiration dates, maturity dates, and other due dates. We can use a positive value for month to get a date in the future and a negative value to get a date in the past. So I have a starting date, the 12th of February 2019, and here is the 12th of February. I would like to calculate using the eDate function 2 months from today, which should be returning the one in green, the 12th of April. If I want to calculate a date in the past, let's say 1 month in the past, it should be returning the 12th of January, the one with a blue circle. Let's use the eDate function equal eDate, and then when I hit tab, it asks me for a start date coming from cell B3, then I hit comma. How many months? I want 2 months in the future coming from cell A4. Close the bracket and look at that, it's returning a number. That's not a problem. I can change it by using the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+3. Now it says the 12th of April 2019, which is 2 months from the starting date. I can calculate a date in the past by using the eDate function equal eDate, and then I hit the tab key. My start date will be the 12th of February. I hit comma, and I need the number coming from cell A5, which is -1. 1 single month in the past. I close the bracket and hit enter. I'm getting a number. Ctrl+Shift+3 formats it as a date, and here is the 12th of January 2019, 1 month in the past, 1 month before the start date. How to find the first day of a month? Assuming that I have a date, the 25th of February, I would like to find out the first day of the month, which is the 1st of February. I could do that in one of two ways. I could use the end of month function, and I'm going to use it in a little tricky way. So we know that the end of month will be returning the last day of the month for n months in the future or in the past. So what if I say equal EO month, and then I hit tab? Where's your start date? The date coming from cell B3, and then when I hit comma, what if I say I want the last date of the previous month? The last date of the previous month is the 31st of January. So if I want that date, I type -1. If I close the bracket and then hit enter, it's returning the last date in January. But what I would like to extract is the first day of the month. So what if I add 1? I select this formula, put it in the edit mode F2 and type +1. When I hit enter, I would have extracted the first day of any month. I can also use the date function to build up the first day of any month by typing equal date. And the date function, as we know, requires 3 arguments, the year, and then I hit tab. Which year do you want? I want the year from the provided date, which is cell B3, and I close the bracket for the year. Then I want the month, so I'll be extracting the months by using a month function, the months of cell B3, and close the bracket. And what about the day? I'm not going to use a function. I just want the first day, so I type 1, and then when I close the bracket, it would have extracted the first day of any month. As you can see, we can do it with the end of month function. Let me put it in the edit mode. Also, we can build it by using the date function. Sometimes we need to find the last day of any month. And to find the last day of any month, assuming that I have a date in February, the 5th of February, and the last date in this case will be the 28th of February 2019. So I can do that in two ways, either by using the end of month function, so I'll be typing equal EO month, and it requires a start date, and the start date will be whatever I have in cell B3. Right now I have the 5th of February 2019, and I hit comma. Then it asks me how many months you want in the future or in the past. Well, I don't want to move. I want to remain in the same month. So I type 0. And then I close the bracket. And that will be the last day of the month shown in B3. It doesn't look like a date. So I'll be applying a date format by using the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+3. And that's the 28th of February 2019. I can also build it by using the date function. Equal date. And then I hit tab. The date function requires 3 arguments. The first one is the year, the second is the month, and the third is the day. So what if I say for the year? Well, I need the year coming from cell B3. And then I hit comma. I need the month, also coming from cell B3. But the month in B3 will be 2. What if I add 1? So if I add 1, that means I'm moving to the next month. And then when I hit comma, in the next month, I want to go back to the last day of the previous month. So if for the day portion, I type 0 and close the bracket. If I select this part, the second argument, the month argument of the date function, and then I hit F9, look at that, it's returning 3, and the 0 for the day will take me to the last day of the previous month. Let's undo Ctrl+Z, and when I hit enter, it's extracting the last day of the previous month. How can I find the first day of any year? So let's say I have a date which is the 25th of February, and the first day of the year would be Tuesday, the 1st of January 2019. How can I find the first day of any year? I can use the end of month function. So if I type equal EO month, and then I hit tab, it asks me about the start date. My start date comes from cell B3, now it requires a certain number of months in the past or in the future. So what if I subtract the number of months coming from cell B3? So if I say month of whatever comes from cell B3, when I close the bracket, I'm right now subtracting 2. So it subtracts whatever number of months I have in B3. So if I close the bracket right now and then hit enter, it's returning a number which should be the end of months of the previous year. Let me confirm. Ctrl+Shift+3 to format it as date. And when I expand the column, that's the last day of the previous year. So what if I put my function in the edit mode one more time? Now I have equal end of months of cell B3. I'm subtracting the number of months coming from cell B3. What if I add one single day? Dates are incremental numbers. So if I add +1, that will be the first day of the year. When I hit enter, that's the 1st of January 2019. I could build the date also by using the date function. So what if I say equal date? I want to find out the first day of the year. Which year? Let's use the year function. And the year function will be extracting the year from cell B3. When I close the bracket, the year function will be extracting 2019. And then I hit comma because I want the first day. So I type 1 for the month, comma 1 for the day, and close the bracket. That will be the first day of the year. In many cases, we have a date, and we would like to find which day of the week is that. So in this case, we use the weekday function. The weekday function returns a number from 1 to 7, 1 for Sunday, 7 for Saturday, identifying the day of the week of a date. So let's use the weekday function, and I have a date, the 25th of January 2019, and I would like to extract which day of the week is that. It should be returning Friday, and because the week starts as a Sunday, then Friday in this case will be number 6. The weekday function returns a number. So if I say equal weekday, and then I hit the tab key, it asks me for a serial number, and then when I close the bracket, I'm accepting the default for the weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday, and when I hit enter, it tells me the 25th of January is week number 6. Should you wish to convert it to a text, then I created a little table array with Sunday as number 1 and then Saturday as number 7, so I can use this table array for converting the number returned by the weekday function as a text. So I can say equal VLOOKUP, and then I say my lookup value is whatever comes from the weekday function. I hit comma. My table array is this entire range. I need a return value from the second column, the one having Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, not the one having the numbers. So I type 2, which corresponds to the second column, and then I hit comma. I need an exact match, so I type 0 for the exact match, and then close the bracket, and then hit enter. It's returning Friday, which means the weekday function returns a number, and I converted it by using a VLOOKUP function into a text. Look at that, the number is right aligned and the text is left aligned. You can do that directly by using a text function. I can get the same exact result by extracting the weekday as text from a start date. So I use the text function equal text, and then I hit tab. Which value? The value coming from cell B3. And because I want to return it as a day abbreviated, so in double quotation I type 1, 2, 3 Ds and close the double quotation, close the bracket. When I hit enter, it's returning Friday. And here the VLOOKUP function was extracting abbreviated days that were capitalized. I could do the same exact thing with the result of the text function by saying I want to convert to uppercase equal upper, and then when I hit tab, I want to capitalize whatever comes from cell B7. I close the bracket and hit enter, and I'm getting the date abbreviated and capitalized. I could use the weekday function to find the start day of a week. So let's say I have a date like the 25th of January 2019. And because by default the first day of a week is a Sunday, so I can use the weekday function to extract the first day of the week, which is Sunday, by providing an extra parameter. So let me explain the concept first. I'm in cell A5, and I would like to extract the serial number of whatever date I have in cell A2, so I type equal sign and click on cell A2 and then hit enter. I want to reveal the number, so I switch to the general format by clicking on the down arrow of the drop list in the number group and select general, and here is the serial number. If I want to extract the first day of this week, and now we are doing it manually, I need to subtract 5. So let's have a look at the weekday function that might be returning 5. So if I type equal weekday, and then I say I want the weekday of this date, and then comma, now I have a return type. It shows me many arguments. If in this case I would like to return 5, then I need to use the argument number 11, which starts counting from Monday. So in this case, the 25th of January will be day number 5. If Monday is number 1, then Tuesday is 2, Wednesday is 3, Thursday is 4, and Friday is 5. So I'll be using this argument number 11. And when I hit tab and close the bracket, now it's returning 5. What if we subtract these two numbers? So if I say equal A5 minus B5, then when I hit enter, it's returning the first day of the week. Let me format it as date, Ctrl-Shift-3, and now it's January 20, 2019. That's the first day of the week. I'm going to delete all that. Now I'll be doing it in one single step. So I type an equal sign and click on cell A2, minus the weekday. Weekday of which cell? Weekday of A2, and then comma. I need the return type 11, which starts counting from Monday. So if I type 11, then close the bracket and then hit enter, it's returning the 20th of January 2019. Let me test it. What if I change the date and make it the 12th of February 2019? So if I click on cell A2, I have a drop list. If I change the date, now it's returning 10. And by looking at the calendar icon, that's correct. If I change the date to the 6th of March 2019, the first day is 3. So here is the 3rd of March 2019, and my function is working just fine. But in some cases, you want to return the first day of the week, considering Monday the first day of the week. So in this case, if I have the date the 25th of January, then I want to return the 21st of January, assuming that this is the first day in our week system. So I'll be typing the same exact function, but I'll change the return type. Equal cell A2, and then I want to subtract. What would you like to subtract? I want to subtract the weekday function of the same cell, and then here the return type will be different. I want to consider Monday as day 0. So in this case, if I select 3, now I close the bracket. If I hit enter, it's returning the 21st of January 2019. If I change the date, look at the second one. I want to consider Monday 11th of February, the first day of the week. So if I change the date from the drop list and select the 12th of February, now it's returning 11. Everything is working fine. What about the 6th of March? I want to return the 4th of March. So if I click on the down arrow and select the 6th of March, it's returning the 4th. So you can use the weekday function to extract the first day of the week, whether you consider the first day is Sunday or a Monday. For a Sunday, I'm using the return type 11. For a Monday, I'm using the return type 3. The Excel week number function takes a date and returns a week number from 1 to 54 that corresponds to the week of a year. The week number function starts counting with the week that contains January 1st. By default, weeks begin on Sunday. So let me calculate the week number for the 25th of January. What's the order of this week? Because here is the first month of the year, then here is 1 week, second, third, and fourth. So let's find the week number of a date. I do have a date in cell B3, so if I type equal week number, and I want the serial date coming from cell B3, when I close the bracket it says this is week 4. If you look at the calendar icon, you can simply count 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 4th week of this year. If I change the date and select a different date, let it be 19th of February, that's week 8. If I change the date, 16th of May, that's week number 20 in the year 2019. The Excel workday function returns a date that is a given number of working days ahead of or prior to the start date. It excludes weekends as well as any holidays you specify. You can use the workday function to calculate things like ship dates, delivery dates, and completion dates that need to take into account working and non-working days. By default, the weekend is Saturday and Sunday. In our example, some citizens apply to renew their passport, and I have in column A the date of submission for the documents. And the question is, what's the pickup date for my passport if I have to pick it up after 15 working days? So in this case, I use the workday function. So I'm in cell B4, and I'll type equal workday. And when I hit tab, the workday function asks for the start date, and it's the date to my left. And then I hit comma. What's the number of working days you want to count? So I click on cell A1. I have the intention of copying this formula down. So I lock A1 by hitting F4, and then I hit comma. And then it asks me about the holidays. I do have a range of holidays that I want to include in my calculation. So if any of these holidays falls within the 15 working days, it will be excluded. So I click and drag to select the range. And because I'm copying down, I hit the F4 key to lock it. And then I close the bracket and then hit Control Enter. To populate this function, I hover over the lower right corner and double click and send it down. In many countries, the weekend is not Saturday and Sunday. So in this case, we have another variation of the workday function which accommodates for a different weekend, and it's called the Workday International. So let's assume that we have only Sunday as a holiday. So I'll be using the Workday International. I'm selecting the entire range, and it has an extra parameter. I type an equal sign, workday, and this time because we are not following the regular weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday, so I'm selecting the Workday International in order to be able to customize the weekend. I hit the tab key, and like the workday function, it asks me for the start date, which is cell A4. I hit comma. How many days? I'm selecting cell A1, and in cell A1 I have 15 working days. Because I intend to copy down, I hit the F4 key to lock it, and then I hit comma. It asks me about the weekend this time. What's your weekend? If you don't type anything, so it goes with the default Saturday and Sunday. Should you have a different weekend, then you select the corresponding number from the list of weekends. And because in this example the weekend is considered Sunday, so I'm selecting number 11. I hit the tab key. I could have typed 11 directly, and then I hit comma. It asks me about the holidays, so I click and drag to select the range of holidays. If any of these holidays falls within the 15 working days, it will be excluded as well. And because I intend to copy, I hit the F4 key to lock, and then I close the bracket. To populate my function, I hit Control Return or Control Enter. When I hit Control Enter, look at the dates. There is a difference between the dates because right now in this example we have only the Sunday as a holiday, while in the first example using the workday function we have Saturday and Sunday. In Excel we frequently ask the question, how many working days do I have between two dates? While the workday function returns a date, the Networkdays function returns a number. The Excel Networkdays function calculates the number of working days between two dates. Networkdays automatically excludes weekends, using the default weekend Saturday and Sunday, and can optionally exclude a list of holidays supplied as dates. Note the Networkdays function includes both the start and the end dates. Let's see how we calculate the difference between two dates. And if I look at my calendar, I have a start date which is the 10th of February 2019 and an end date which is the 23rd of February 2019. What's the difference between these two dates? I'm going first to use the Networkdays function. I'm in cell D4 and I'll type equal Networkdays. The Networkdays function ask for a start date. So I click on the start date coming from cell B4, and then I hit comma. It asks me about the end date. I have an optional argument for holiday that I'm not using for now, and if I close the bracket, it will be returning the difference between these two dates. If you look at the start day, which is Sunday, and the end day, which is Saturday, these 2 days are excluded from the calculation, so I can simply count. I have 5 days in the top row, and then I have another 5 days in the next row, so the total will be 10, which means the Networkdays function calculates the number of working days between the specified dates. If you don't want the default weekend, Saturday and Sunday, you can then customize the weekend parameter. Let's say I have Saturday only, and I'll be using a variation of the Networkdays function called the Networkdays International. I'm in cell D10, and I would like to calculate the number of working days between a start date and end date, assuming that the weekend is Saturday only. So I'll be typing equal Networkdays International. I hit the tab key, and then it asks me about the start date. I select my start date, type a comma, it asks me about the end date, and then I type a comma, and here is the parameter that enables me to customize the weekend. I have different options for selecting the weekend. I'll be scrolling down because we have only Saturday as a weekend in our company, so I'll be selecting 17, which corresponds to Saturday only. And when I hit the tab key, I have another optional argument for the holidays. I'm going to omit that optional argument. I close the bracket and then hit enter. Now look at the difference. For the same exact start and end date with the Networkdays International, selecting the weekend as Saturday only, I have 12 working days between the 2 days. Sometimes we need to know the number of occurrences of a specific weekday between 2 dates. So let's say I want to know how many Mondays, or maybe Tuesday or Friday, do I have between 2 dates. And before I calculate the number of Mondays between 2 dates, I need first to explain the concept. I'll be selecting 2 days on my calendar, February 5 and February 8, and I would like to calculate how many days do I have between these 2 dates. And because this range does not include a weekend, so whether I use the days function or the Networkdays function, I should be getting the same result. But surprisingly, I'm not getting the same result. So let's use the days function as if I'm subtracting the 5th of February 2019 from the 8th of February 2019. So I type equal days, and then I hit the tab key. It asks me about the end date. The end date is the bigger number, the later date, and then I hit comma. What's your start date? My start date is the 5th of February coming from cell B5. When I close the bracket, I hit enter. And look at that. 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be 4. But the days function, like the subtraction, does not include both the start and end date. It includes only one of them. So keep that in mind. What about the network days? We don't have any weekends between these dates. So what if I use the network days? It should be calculating the number of working days between the start and end date. So in cell B13, I'll be typing my network days function, equal network days. And then it asks me about the start date. The start date will be the 5th of February, coming from cell B12. I hit comma. It asks me about the end date. I don't have holidays, so I close the bracket and hit enter, and look at the difference. The network days function is including both the start and end date. Now keep that in mind. If you want to include the start and end date when using a days function, then you have to add 1. Now let's use the days function to calculate the difference between 2 dates, the 5th of February and the 28th of February. I'll be using the days function. But because I know that the days function does not include both the start and end days, I'm going to add 1 so that the result will be comparable to the network days. I'm in cell F6 and I would like to calculate how many days there are between the 5th of February and the 28th of February, so I'll be using the days function, equal days, and then I hit the tab key. It asks me about the end date, which is the 28th of February, coming from cell F4, and then I hit comma. It asks me about the start date coming from cell F5, which is the 5th of February. When I close the bracket and then hit enter, this is what I'm getting. Of course, what you see right now doesn't look like a number of days. This is because of formatting. If I strip off the formatting and apply general formatting, I could do that in many ways. I'll be using the shortcut Control-Shift-tilde, and now I can see the result, 23 days. But because I intend to compare it with the result of a Network Days or a Network Days International, these two functions include the start and finish date, then I'm going to put it in the edit mode one more time and simply say +1. That should be the same exact thing. And I want to convert it one more time to the general format, Control-Shift-tilde, and the result will be 24. Now let's use the Network Days function. The Network Days function will count the number of working days between two dates. And because my intention in this project is to count the number of Mondays, so I'll assume that Monday is the weekend. So let's see how we do this. I'm using the Network Days International. It will count the difference between these two days, excluding Monday. So I type equal Network Days. This time I'll be using the international format of this function. The Network Days International requires a start date, which is the 5th of February, and then I hit comma. It requires an end date, so I'm selecting F11, which is the 28th of February. I hit comma, and here is the list of weekends. Which one you consider the weekend? I'm going to select number 12, which means Monday only. Remember that we want at the end to count the number of Mondays, but the Network Days function is excluding Mondays. So if I hit tab to select Monday, when I close the bracket and then hit enter, now it's returning 21. And just think of the situation we have. The days function is counting all the days between two dates, including the start and finish date, because I added one. The Network Days International is counting all the days between two dates. That excludes Monday. So if I subtract the result of my Network Days International, that excludes Monday, from the days function, that will return the number of Mondays. So I'm in cell F16, and I'll be simply typing a subtraction, equal sign. I want to select the result of my days function and subtract the result of the Network Days International. And when I hit enter, it's returning 3. Let's look at our calendar. Look at that. I do have 11, 18, and 25 between the date with the red circle and the date with the green square. That means I have 3 Mondays. That's exactly what we have. But let's do it now in one single function. Let's combine the two functions together into one single bigger function. So I'm in cell F17 and I'm typing equal sign. I want to use the days function to count the number of days between a start and end date. So my start date, I can select any one of these two sets. They are exactly the same. I'll be selecting the end date, the 28th of February, and then I hit comma. It requires the start date, which is the 5th of February, and then I close the bracket. The days function does not include both the start and end date, so I need to add one, and then I need to subtract the function that excludes Mondays, the function that counts all the days, excluding Mondays only. So I type Network Days, and I select Network Days International. Now it asks me about the start date, F12, and then I hit comma, my end date, F11, and here is the important argument. Which date would you like to exclude from the Network Days International count? Well, I want to exclude the date that I want to count, because the subtraction will return the number of that date. So if you wish to count Tuesday, select 13. If you wish to count Wednesday, you select 14. If you wish to count Friday, you select 16. But in my example, I want to calculate the number of Mondays, so I'm going to select Monday. When I hit tab, and then I close the bracket, and then hit enter, it's returning 3. That's the number of Mondays between the two specified dates. Let's put my function in the edit mode one more time, and then let's select the first part of this function, the days function, and then I want to calculate it by hitting the F9 key. It's returning 23 days, and I'm adding 1 to include both the start and end date. I hit Control Z. Now I would like to calculate the network days function, which by default include the start and finish date. So I hit the F9 key to calculate my network days function. It's returning 21. And then don't forget to hit Control Z to undo. We don't want to hardcode the function. And when I hit enter, it's returning 3. That's the number of Mondays between 2 days. When I go to the Formulas tab of the ribbon and click on the down arrow of the date and time functions, I don't find the function that I want to cover in this example. It's called the COUPDAYS function. So if I go under Financial and click on the down arrow, and here is the COUPDAYS function and the COUPDAYS NC next coupon that I want to explain in this example. And the COUPDAYS function, as we have seen, is a financial function from the point of view of Excel, but it's tightly related to dates, so I'm going to explain it in this example. What is a COUPDAYS function? The Excel COUPDAYS function returns the number of days in the coupon period that contains the settlement date. Complicated? Let's simplify it. Governments and corporations commonly use bonds in order to borrow money to fund their projects. So they issue bonds for people to buy. These people are in fact lending the government. The issuer of a bond must pay these people interest for the privilege of using their money. This interest is paid at a predetermined rate and schedule. The date on which the issuer must repay the amount borrowed is called the maturity date, while the interest associated with a bond is referred to as a coupon. So let's see in this example, the government issues 10 years bonds at 8% annual interest rate. So the bond issue date is the 1st of January 2018. And because the validity of these bonds is 10 years, then the maturity date is the 1st of January 2028. A buyer purchases a coupon 5 months after the issue date. And this is what we call the settlement date, the date on which the buyer purchases the coupon. And the interest for this bond, the coupon period, is semi-annual. So I have 2 periods for this coupon. So I would like to use the COUPDAYS function to return the number of days in the coupon period that contains the settlement date. So let's create the COUPDAYS function equal COUPDAYS, and then I hit tab. It asks me about the settlement date, the date on which the buyer purchased the coupon. So it's the 1st of June 2018, and then I hit comma. It asks me about the maturity date, and the maturity date after 10 years will be the 1st of January 2028. I hit comma, and then it asks me about the frequency, how frequently you will be getting the interest on this bond. It's semi-annual, so I can select 2 from here, but I already typed it in cell B7. And then finally, it asks me about the basis. I'm going to accept the default, which is 0. So I'm going to hit the tab key and then close the bracket and hit enter, and it's returning 180 days. If you wish to calculate the number of days until the next coupon, then in this case you use a variation of the COUPDAYS called COUPDAYS next coupon. And surprisingly, it has the same exact argument, but the calculations going on behind the scene will be different. So I'm in cell B10, and I want to calculate the number of days from the settlement date to the next coupon. So I'll be typing equal COUPDAYS, and I'm selecting the COUPDAYS NC. NC stands for next coupon. It asks me about the settlement date, the date the buyer purchased the bonds, and then I hit comma. What's the maturity date? 10 years from the issue date. Coming from cell B5, I hit comma. What's the frequency? The frequency is coming from cell B7. It's semi-annual. And then I hit comma. It asks me about the basis. I'm going to accept the default, which is based on 12 months of 30 days each. I hit the tab key to select the default, and now it's returning 30 days. The COUPDAYS and the COUPDAYS.NC are both financial and date functions. That's why we covered them. Finally, I added a sheet with the definition and arguments for all the date functions. And here is your bonus calendar that you could customize for any year just by changing the date in cell E1. If you type any date, all the calendar will be updated to reflect the year in the typed date. You can annotate this calendar as well. Don't forget to claim your free gift, the quick reference guide that will help you memorize all the date functions. To receive your free gift, follow the instructions below the video. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you found value in it. And if you want to learn more in Excel, be sure to hit the big subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.